You build an empire from nothing, a legacy. For 15 years, I poured my soul into my construction business. From a single truck to a multi-million-dollar company. My family was my foundation. So when my mother-in-law fell on hard times, I didn't hesitate. I bought her a house, a beautiful, fully paid home, a gift from the heart. The day we signed the papers, she cried tears of joy. She called me her hero. But while I was signing those gift papers, she was secretly signing other documents, forged documents, documents that transferred controlling shares of my business into her name. I went from CEO to a mere employee in the company I built from the ground up. The woman I called Mom had orchestrated the most cold-blooded corporate takeover of my life. It was a routine audit that uncovered the truth. My accountant found irregularities in our corporate filings. When he showed me the documents, my blood ran cold. There was my mother-in-law's signature, clear as day, on shareholder transfer papers dated the same week I gave her the house. She hadn't just taken a home. She'd taken my life's work. When I confronted her, the loving mother-in-law vanished. Her eyes turned cold. "It's legal," she said calmly. "You were too busy playing the hero to read the fine print. The business is mine now." My own wife sat silently beside her. She knew. She had known all along. The two most important women in my life had conspired to destroy me. The next morning, security guards met me at my office door. "New management policy," they said. My access cards were deactivated. My employees watched in horror as I was escorted from the building I designed myself. That afternoon, I received a formal offer. I can stay on as a consultant at a fraction of my salary. It was adding insult to injury. My bank accounts were frozen due to pending litigation. My credit lines were canceled. In 36 hours, I went from a self-made millionaire to a man who couldn't even pay for coffee. The sheer audacity of it left me reeling. This wasn't just business. This was personal, calculated destruction designed to break me completely. Desperate, I visited legal aid office after legal aid office. Most lawyers took one look at the case and shook their heads. "It's airtight," they said. "She covered her tracks too well." I was ready to give up when I met Elena, a former corporate lawyer who lost everything when she exposed corruption at her own firm. Now she worked in a cramped legal aid office, helping people the system had discarded. She saw my case file and didn't see a lost cause. She saw a pattern. "This isn't the first time she's done this," Elena said, her eyes sharp. "She's too practiced. Let me help you." She took my case for free. Elena's world was a revelation. Her office was in a decaying building that smelled of old books and determination. The furniture was donated, the computer ancient. But on her wall was a child's drawing that said "Justice First." She worked at a tiny desk covered in case files for people who had nothing. Meanwhile, my penthouse stood empty, a museum of a life that no longer existed. All glass and steel, but utterly hollow. In Elena's world, people fought for principles, not profits. She offered me terrible instant coffee and got to work, asking for nothing in return. It was the first genuine kindness I'd experienced in months. Elena worked miracles with nothing. She found patterns where others saw chaos. She discovered my mother-in-law had done this before, to her own brother 20 years prior. She found the shell companies, the hidden transfers, the manipulated records. We spent nights in that small office, surrounded by pizza boxes and legal pads. Elena taught me how the system really worked, how power protects power. "They think you're beaten," she'd say, pushing another document across the table. "But we're just getting started." For the first time since the betrayal, I felt hope. We weren't just fighting for my business, we were fighting for justice. One rainy afternoon, Elena's daughter Maya visited after school, a bright-eyed 8-year-old with paint-stained fingers. She watched me staring at a particularly damning document, my shoulders slumped in defeat. Without a word, Maya walked over and placed a small painted rock in my hand. On it, she painted a single key. "My teacher says when you can't find the answer," she whispered, "you have to look for the key that everyone forgot about." That simple painted rock became my talisman. It reminded me that every complex system has a simple weakness. You just have to be brave enough to look for it. The key was in the timing. Elena discovered that my mother-in-law had filed the business transfer documents exactly one day before our corporate annual meeting. A technicality, but a crucial one. According to our bylaws, major ownership changes couldn't occur within 30 days of annual meetings. She'd been in such a hurry to seize control that she'd made a fatal error. We also found the notary who witnessed the signatures, a former employee she'd paid off. He was willing to talk. For the first time, we had leverage. The invincible fortress she'd built around my stolen business had a crack, and we were ready to break it wide open. My mother-in-law didn't take our progress lightly. She summoned me to what was once my own boardroom. She sat at the head of my table, flanked by lawyers. "This has gone on long enough," she said coldly. "Sign this settlement. You'll get a generous consulting contract, your name on the door, and we'll tell everyone it was an amicable transition, or we'll bury you in legal fees until you're living on the street." She slid a check for $2 million across the table. It was everything I needed to start over. An easy way out. All I had to do was betray the truth and let evil win. I stared at that check for a long time. I thought about Elena working late nights for free. I thought about Maya's painted rock sitting on my temporary desk. I thought about all the other people my mother-in-law would destroy if I took this deal. That $2 million wasn't a lifeline. It was blood money. I picked up the check and tore it in half. "Some things aren't for sale," I told her. The look of shock on her face was priceless. She'd underestimated me. She thought I was the same man who valued money above all else. But I'd learned there were more important things, like integrity, like justice, like the truth. Elena and I prepared for the final battle. We gathered every piece of evidence, every witness statement, every financial record. We found 3 other small business owners my mother-in-law had destroyed using similar tactics. We built a case that went beyond my business. It was about a pattern of predatory behavior spanning decades. The night before the hearing, Elena handed me a file. "This is it," she said. "Everything we have. Remember why we're doing this." I looked at that file and thought about all the people who couldn't fight back. We weren't just fighting for me anymore. We were fighting for everyone she'd ever wronged. The courtroom was packed. My mother-in-law arrived with an army of lawyers, confident and smug. But when Elena stood to present our case, everything changed. She presented the evidence with surgical precision. The forged documents, the manipulated dates, the paid-off witnesses, the pattern of destruction spanning 20 years. when she played the recording of my mother-in-law admitting her scheme to an associate. The gasps in the courtroom were audible. I stood and looked at the woman who tried to destroy me. "You can keep the business," I said. "I don't want it anymore. It was built on family, and you turned it into a weapon." The judge ruled in our favor, but the victory wasn't in getting my business back. It was in exposing the truth. I sold the company to my employees through an ESOP and used the money to start something new. A legal aid foundation for small business owners facing predatory practices. Elena runs it with me. We work from a modest office downtown, but the work we do matters. My wife? She filed for divorce, choosing her mother over me. Some losses turn out to be blessings. I wake up every morning knowing I'm helping people, not just making money. The painted rock from Maya still sits on my desk. Last week, Maya came to our new office after school. She placed another painted rock on my desk. This one had a phoenix rising from flames. "For your new beginning," she said with a smile. I looked around at what we'd built. Not a corporate empire, but a sanctuary for people who needed help. My mother-in-law's betrayal had cost me everything I thought mattered, but it gave me something more valuable: my integrity. That painted rock reminds me every day that the greatest wealth isn't in your bank account. It's in the lives you change and the truth you uphold. And that's a fortune no one can ever steal.